Hi everybody and welcome back to my channel today. So I thought I'd speak about something today which I've considered talking about for several years and I've always put it off. Mainly because a lot of people would say to me, what would you know? You're a man. So it is going to come down to, if you want to call it sexual discrimination, whatever. I'm not really that bothered. Okay. And basically what it is to do with Down syndrome. So anybody that actually has ever known me knows that I have several children, and my youngest daughter, we found out when my wife was 20 weeks pregnant, that we were going to be expecting a child with Down syndrome. And not because we had the test, where is it, the water test, whatever you call it. I'm not a woman, I don't have babies, don't know what the test is called. So what I thought I'd do today is speak about it, something I've always wanted to speak about, see if I could help people, and speak about the other side, which is often in the press and in the media. And there's even been in TV soap operas in the UK, which is the termination side. Now obviously my daughter is 5, so when we were expecting her back then, I'm assuming it's still the case, I don't know, but the law's changed, but at any stage up to the day of labour you could have a termination. The doctors would repeatedly offer you terminations. Every time we went to the hospital they say, would you like a termination? Would you like a termination? Would you like a termination? Would you like another termination? Now the irony is, which is something I learned after our consultant, because I never knew anything about Down syndrome. You never met a Down syndrome child or adult, never met anybody with Down syndrome. And the consultant said to me, go and do your research. Go and find out everything on your way back home, because we were in Southampton at the time. And I did. And to be honest, I was absolutely flabbergasted with some of the information I found out. Because I always thought the most common thing for children with Down syndrome is where they have like the eyes, well they call them almond eyes, not mental health. Mental health is the most common thing that Down syndrome children suffer from, is mental health. I think it works out at 99% of them, of Down syndrome people, will have a mental health condition at some stage in their life. So pretty much guaranteed. But the stat that surprised me the most was this, and this is where I'm about to get so much hate off women. And this is why I've never done this video until today. And it's this. Every woman I've ever known and asked them this one question, all of them, but one, has always said they wouldn't. And this is the question. Would you ever consider having a termination? For whatever reason, would you do it? And only one woman, and I've known a lot of women, not because I've been around the block or anything, before you even say anything like that, I've known a lot of women because I've worked in the sales industry, used to deal with marketing departments. The marketing departments, people are normally women in them. It's not always the case, but a lot of the time it is. So a lot of women I've spoken to, they will always say no, but one. And that one woman, and I won't give her name, said yes because she knew, well, I knew that she had had a termination when she was much younger. When she was really young, I think she was about 18. She had a termination. She knew she was, well, she felt she was too young to have a child. Never asked her if she regretted it, but she had a termination. Every other woman would say, no, I'd never do it. Now, this is the surprising thing. So you're basically talking about 99% women will say no. You get a woman, and here comes the hate, you get a woman that finds out that she's expecting a child with Down syndrome. This is how drastically the stats change. It is about 80% guarantee she will terminate. Think about that. 8 out of 10 women will terminate. Now, the question that I've always asked, and people have spoken to me, and you've got to remember this is a debate that's gone on Emmerdale a few years ago. It's been in the press in recent years, you know, trying to get that changed, because obviously it's all the way up until the day of Labour. And in some respects, I understand. Even though I've got a child with Down syndrome, I understand. And why do I understand? Because there are challenging times. Now, when my daughter was born, and the reason we found out, not because we had a test or anything, and this is what happened. Me and my wife went to a local hospital, which is Queen Alexandra Hospital in Portsmouth in Cosham. It's a routine appointment. It was my wife's 20-week scan, so it was that joyful time where we both say to each other, do we want to find out what the sex of the baby is? Are we going to tell anybody? Are we going to keep it a secret? Make it a surprise for everybody else? Blah, blah, blah. The usual rubbish that, you know, couples go through at the 20-week scan, if they can actually tell you that is. And we decided, I can't remember what we actually decided. Well, we went in for the scan, and we all both hopeful. I don't think we were really that bothered if it was a boy or a girl or whatever. And the sonographer said to us, we've got a problem. I need to stop it now, and I need you to come back tomorrow. I thought, okay. Never really thought anything of it. I said, okay, we'll come back tomorrow. Come back the following day, get put in a room to stop a set, except this one was a heart specialist. Okay, now, for anybody that doesn't know, Queen Alexandra Hospital is not a heart specialist hospital. They don't have a heart specialist unit. That's down at Southampton, which is about 15 miles down the road. And he basically said to us, and he got in a lot of trouble for this as well, he's lucky to keep his job. He basically said there was no chance of survival, but she had a serious heart condition. So yeah, the doctor said, no chance of survival. If you refuse to have a termination, she'll be lucky if she survives a few breaths. And in walked a lady that we knew, it's a diabetes nurse, and she basically said, right, I think it's time to stop this appointment. And she said to me and my wife, come with me a minute, and put us in like a waiting room. Turns out she went back to that doctor and said, look, I'm getting him a second opinion. I'm going to refer him to the Princess Anne Hospital, which, for those who do not know, is a maternity hospital which is linked to Southampton General Hospital in Southampton. And we had an appointment there the next day. And at that appointment, met some fantastic doctors and nurses. Did another scan on my wife, found out she did have a heart condition, and it was borderline. I said, if it improves, she's got a good chance of survival. Okay, did us this little picture, like on a piece of A4 paper, showed us what drew it upside down at that, what heart was supposed to look like, and what my daughter's one looked like, and said to us, 99.9% guarantee she will have Down syndrome. And I said, and I remember still to this day, I said, I don't know anything about Down syndrome. I said, I've never even met anybody with Down syndrome. And he said to me, go home, go and do your research. Or on your way home back to Gosport, where we were living, go and find out everything you can. And that's what I did. And I did so much research, you know. And the funny thing is, you start noticing, I remember at my next appointment, or our next appointment, got taken up to the heart ward. And it was the first time I ever cried. I saw this little girl, she could have only been about 2. She got into, like, she was with her dad, got into, like, you know, them yellow cars with the red roofs, like little kids there going. She got into one of those, was trying to push it around, and I started crying. Never even cried at my granddad's funeral. And I see this little kid, and I start crying. I had to walk away, because I couldn't have them seeing me crying, and obviously we're on a heart unit as well. That's the first time I ever got to see a child with Down syndrome. So, from that, obviously we had our child. Now, the fundamental thing I always think about is that, and a lot of people say to me, how do I cope with a child with Down syndrome? Now, the easy answer to this is, I've always said that looking after her is easier than my other 4 children. Because with her, I get unconditional love. You know, I will openly admit, she is my favourite child. Out of all my kids, she is my favourite. Now, I can't imagine my personal life without her. You know, she changed the person I am today to the person I was 5.5 years ago. Because it'll be about that now. She'd be what, 5 years old in 4 months. So, has she changed me? Yes, she has. Are there challenges along the line? Categorically there are, because she had to have a fundamental thing. After she was born, she was on oxygen tanks. She ended up having to have an AVSD stroke TOF repair, and for those who have absolutely no idea what that is, basically she had 3 holes in the heart. She had to have a heart valve reconstruction because under 2 of the heart chambers, the valve had moulded into one, so it had to be reconstructed. And the pulmonary artery, which pumps the blood from pulmonary heart chamber down to your lungs, if I remember rightly, it was 6 mils in width, and it was supposed to be 12 mils. So they had to double it. And even though she's near on 5.5 now, she will have to have more surgery later on down the line. You know, so taking that into account, there are challenges, and there will always be challenges, but is it worth it? In my book, yes. Now, luckily for me, my wife did actually ask me if we should have a termination. I actually did say no. I couldn't bring myself to say yes and make my wife go through that. Whether she would have, I don't know. Never asked her. But she asked me for my personal opinion. Now, I'm going to spin it. Can everybody do it? Yeah, they can. But the one thing I always say is, can everybody get the support at home that they require to actually bring up a child with Down syndrome? And the answer, unfortunately, to that is no, they can't. You know, I can understand anybody that's not in a stable relationship, maybe they haven't had children and it's their first child. I can understand you terminating. I really can. If you've had a few children like me and my wife, you know, we've had 5 kids together. Just think about 5 children. And people wonder why I'm always tired. Then it's a lot easier because you know what to expect and you're used to planning things ahead. Then I would say life is a lot easier. But if it is your first, then I truly can understand. But the one thing I will say, the enjoyment and the pride of having somebody like her, unless you have a child with Down syndrome, you will never understand. You know, I recently went to her second parents' evening. That was what, about 2, maybe 3 weeks ago. About 2 weeks ago that was. And I can say she's the most popular child in that school. Not in her class, not in the year, in the school. You know, she's not in full time. She's in the equivalent of basically 4 days a week. Does 2 half days, 3 full days. You know, will there be challenges further on down the line? Yeah, you can bet on it, there will be. But I will be still proud of the decision that I personally made and my wife made as well. Now, I hope this can help with somebody out there. If anything, you know, getting a few of these things off my chest and actually saying them after 5 years, I hope it can help somebody. If you are somebody that is pregnant and don't know what to do, there is a lot of help out there. There are organisations that can give you help and advice. If you want to message me, be my guest. I will get back to you and I will respond to you. Okay? But don't ever think that you're on your own at the end of the day. Even if you're single and you're on your own and you split up with your partner, there is still a way through it. Okay, it isn't the end of the world. You know, the amount of enjoyment that you can get from a child with Down syndrome, you will never believe it or understand. So what I'm going to do is finish it off for now. If anybody's got any comments they want to make, please do put them in the comments down below. But for now, thanks for listening, and I'll speak to you again a bit later.